No. There. Okay. That Yahtzee. I think we got it fixed now. That's not the way we want it. So here's the story. I'm gonna start here. Fierce street battle as first Russian troops hit Kyiv. A dead man in civilian clothes lay sprawled on the sidewalk of a residential neighborhood in northern Kyiv on Friday as Ukrainian soldiers took up positions under cover of a 2-story building. So the trick here, see, I moved over to get in the center of the camera, and now my stream deck's way over there. But it's like a real-time CNN experience. That's for you, Alex. So there are Russian troops on the streets in Kyiv. But this is Firearms Friday. And typically we take a break from the regular news on Firearms Friday. We make an exception when there's a good connection. Hell, I'll make an exception if there's even a tenuous connection, because I love to talk about why the Second Amendment matters. And when you look at every other country in the world where there is no Second Amendment, you see the evidence of why the Second Amendment is meaningful, why it really does matter. So you've got troops on the ground in Kyiv, Russian troops, and, well, the Ukraine has an answer. A well-regulated militia. This from Breitbart. Ukraine gives guns to citizens to defend our country. Now, the Ukrainian government will give weapons to anyone who wants to defend the country, it has said in the aftermath of Russia expanding its war in the country's eastern territory. I ain't gonna lie. I'm half tempted to just hop a bird and go to Ukraine right now and just show up and be like, I want to kill Russian. give me free gun. I will kill commies. But Lowry, they're not commies anymore. That's fine. I need some kind of an ass to put my good old American boot to. Amid reserve forces being mobilized and sent to fight the expanding Russian occupation of Ukraine's eastern territories, the Kyiv government is taking steps. Ukraine's eastern territories. Okay. Kyiv is like, not quite, but damn near smack in the middle of Ukraine. And the Russians are already there, guys. So the Kyiv government is taking steps to dramatically increase the supply of available firefighters, promising to hand weapons to anyone willing to take up arms in defense of the nation. Joining the resistance is simple, too. The government says all you need is your passport and a willingness to fight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made the call on Thursday morning, hours after Russia's Putin announced his forces would be entering the Ukrainian territories it had declared to be independent republics, using the alleged widespread presence of neo-Nazis in the region as a pretext for military action. And that's another thing that we'll probably address more in more depth Monday or Tuesday. One of the things that Putin is saying, the reason that he's going into the Ukraine now, is to denazify it. The Democrats have been screaming about everybody's a Nazi, right? We're gonna have to have some serious conversations about the use of the word Nazi to describe political opponents, because the Nazis were a very specific type of evil. Specifically, they were socialists. Now, it's one thing to be a nationalist. You can be a nationalist without being a monster, right? You just say America first, for example. And being a nationalist doesn't mean that you hate other countries. It means that you have a preference and a priority for your own country. And that's not a complicated decision to make. You put the mask on yourself before you assist the child on an airplane. If you are with your child traveling on an airplane and it's going down, right? you have to put your mask on first, because if you don't take care of yourself first and make sure that you don't die before you can help the child, then you're not there to help the child. It is okay to prioritize yourself on occasion. In fact, it's damn necessary. But the fact that the Ukrainians are arming the citizenry directly, that's frickin' awesome. One of our rebuttals to the whole Obamacare thing, you get these psychotic communists like Bernie Sanders and, well, Democrats generally. Oh, healthcare is a human right. I don't see it listed in the Constitution. By the way, that's a service that you have to pay money for, and I do have a right to keep and bear arms, so I'll grant your premise. Buy me a gun. Supply my ammunition. I need an ammo stipend for practice. Right? Hey, if the government supplied a practice-only ammo stipend at a government-run facility for individual marksmanship practice on a monthly basis, there go your accidental deaths, your accidental homicides by firearm. Am I right? Am I right? Hell, I can see sneaking that in under the rubric of healthcare. Let's do it. Anyway, so you see the Ukrainians arming their citizens. Just over 2 weeks ago, we saw stories coming out of Canada with regard to the Canadian truckers convoy. Audio Jack, nice cup, he says. Yeah, I painted that. That's a Lowry original, baby. Oh, and Audio Jack, just for context, this is a 24-inch neck. So anyway, we saw the Canadian convoy. They tried to send the police in, right? I almost called him Castro. Trudeau tried to send the police in to round up, to arrest, to shut down the Canadian convoy. And the Canadian mounted police said no, because they may be armed. Not, we know that they are all armed. No. Just, we suspect that some of them may be armed. So between the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the absolute dictatorial, tyrannical activities of Trudeau in Canada, we see two, and they are the two primary reasons that we hold on to the Second Amendment here in this country. Personal defense, self-defense, defense of your home, defense of the homestead, right? That's all great. And those are great reasons for the Second Amendment. But the real reasons for the Second Amendment is that an armed citizenry is its own best defense against tyrannical government and hostile foreign invaders. There is no better defense than an armed and moral citizenry. Now, I've got this. There it is. Lost my mouse for a second. See what happens? I slid to the left like 3 inches just to get a little more centered in the camera. Just going that 3 inches to the left, everything's out of place. That's what happens, guys. So remember that when the midterms come around. So we've got this from Fox, and it's not that old an article. This was February 20th. Gun crimes grab most media attention, while gun use in self-defense gets merely a fraction, say experts. People using guns in self-defense overwhelmingly don't even lead to a criminal being killed or wounded, one crime watcher says. And we've talked about this on the show several times before. The statistics on armed gun use, on defensive armed gun use, lawful, correct defensive armed gun use The statistic varies wildly because of the rate of reporting. If there's a gun used in a crime, it gets reported. So we have all the data on that. But you don't call the police. Somebody comes to mug you in the street and you just kind of flash them a revolver and they go away. You go about your business and don't report it. So the data on it is a little tricky. The most conservative, the smallest estimates have it in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I think it's like 300,000 or 400,000 are the conservative estimates. And the CDC data tells us that it's more likely in the 2 to 3 million incidents per year that a lawfully armed citizen stops a criminal from committing a crime. And that could be as simple as somebody comes and tries to take my wallet and I show them my revolver and they run away before I commit to shooting them. Because in this hypothetical scenario, I'm going to let you believe that I would allow somebody to run away after having attempted to rob me for, plausible deniability. But Americans across the country have used legal guns to defend themselves and thwart crimes, but the reports often fly under the radar, and most people are unaware how often guns are used in self-defense cases. Having a gun is by far the safest course of action when people are facing a criminal by themselves. Dr. John Lott, an economist and president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, told Fox News Digital. He pointed to women in particular who behave passively and are about 2.4 times more likely to end up being seriously injured than a woman who has a gun to protect herself. As crimes skyrocketed in major cities since 2020, instances of women using guns to protect themselves and stop crimes have reportedly played out. That's a terrible sentence. Thank God I had my gun, or I'd probably be dead right now, a Chicago woman with a concealed carry permit said in October after 2 would-be carjackers approached her outside a bank. In New Orleans, just last week, a mom and Air Force veteran pulled a gun on a man who tried to get into her car while she was sitting in gridlocked traffic with her 2-year-old son. She wasn't forced to fire the weapon, and the suspect took off. So Lott said that in a typical year, the media reports about 2,000 defensive gun use stories, but he added that is a dramatic undercount because the vast majority of successful self-defense cases don't make the news. Lott said there are about 2 million defensive gun uses per year, according to the average of 18 national surveys. The Heritage Foundation, which launched a database tracking how often guns are used in self-defense cases, cites the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which looked at various studies and found that Americans use their firearms defensively between 500,000 and 3 million times per year. So I'm gonna get off of that now. I wanted to put that out there because one of the big retorts on any argument for self-defense for the Second Amendment generally is, the left likes to say, oh, well, you're more likely to be killed by your own gun in an event of a home intrusion or a burglar. Bullshit. That's an absolute fabrication. There is no data at all, no evidence to support that absolutely false claim. There is more data, and by more data I mean one study with fallacious results that have been busted out for being completely doctored to support the gender wage gap, right? Which is a completely debunked theory. There is more data to support that outright lie than there is to support the idea that you're more likely to be killed with a firearm that you own than you are to use it in self-defense. That's a lie. So, why is it so cool that the Ukrainians are arming their people? Guys, this ain't hard. Soldiers in battle, until the United States made some huge changes in the way that we deal psychologically with warfare in the military over the last 20 years as part of Operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. That's OEF and OIF. My war was OEF. I never made it to Iraq, which I'm told is much nicer than the shitbox that I did my work in. But until some very serious psychological, tactical training changes happened in the military, it was not uncommon. In fact, it is common for soldiers to try not to kill the enemy. They'll engage in firefights and they'll shoot around the enemy, try and appear to be shooting, and most of the actual killing is done by a handful of guys, especially when you're talking about drafted soldiers. Now, you change that math a little bit, and you say, hey, the enemy is in our streets and means to supplant us. In fact, if you tell me the enemy is in my streets, I assume that every one of them intends to come and rape my wife and daughters. Sorry, baby, it's still just the one you, I promise. I know we talked about hiring the backup wife for dishes and laundry, but we'll get there. We'll get her in the budget later. But I assume that they are here to take my money, take my family, take my home, right? They're here to cause me personally harm. You tell me the enemy is in my streets, and then the government comes and hands me an automatic weapon and says, "Go kill you some Russians." And buddy, I will put my American blooded boot into commie ass for freedom all day long if I can manage not to trip over my own erection. Because you, ha 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 ha. 10 years, baby, 10 years. I haven't shot anybody in 10 long years. I had some DGUs pulled up, but I think I've already made a half hour out of just talking about, hey, arming your citizens and sending them to kill the enemy is your best first move. Get her done. Right? There's the, I gotta put another stop comment out there for Steve with the water pistol and the eggplant. My man. That just made me forget what I was about to say. Okay. Damn it, Steve. Damn it. Okay. So, arming the citizens is your best maneuver. There's the anachronistic statement from one of the Japanese admirals. If you invade America, you will find a gun behind every blade of grass, right? And the story is that's why Japan never tried to land in the States. And there is at least some truth to the conventional knowledge of that, the conventional wisdom of that. If you know, right, that you already know this in your gut to be true. There are neighborhoods that you will drive by and you'll look at them and say, wow, I shouldn't go there. And there's probably a lot of reasons you shouldn't go there. But the first and foremost that you're thinking is that they have guns. And that's not a bad thing. If they have guns and don't want you in their space, well, isn't that kind of the point? Territory and resources are the reason for war. If there's a political excuse made, it is a political excuse. The reason is territory and resources. Always and everywhere. And the only way to win a war is for a soldier to put boots on the ground and hold it. If you do not have a man in boots holding ground by threat or act of lethal violence, then you have not achieved victory in war. That is a stop all statement. That is a hard fact. So, we are heading into the weekend, and I've got contracts to go fill. So, y'all be safe out there. Don't fry bacon naked. Don't drive drink. Willow says hi. Hi, Willow. I'll tell Penny that you said hi, too. Penny is traveling with Mom and Granddad right now, hanging out in Texas with Aunt Lizette and Uncle Edward. But we love you guys. Y'all be safe. Don't drive drink. Don't fry bacon naked. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. And, Asian land invasions. And videotape. No two at the same time. I'll see you Monday.